Okay. Hi, everyone. So my name is Huang. This is June 10th, the second traveling show of 2023. We are so happy to have all these great readers joining us. More people are joining in, so this is awesome. We are kicking off with last Saturday's event. Sandy Cross was giving was emceeing the event, and then she told me it was gorgeous. It was a great, heartwarming event. And we are doing the second, we're following Sandy's great mojo with the second traveling show episode, okay? And then without I'm going to read the readers lineup today, which is Jensen, followed by Judy Wells, then Peter Carroll, then Angie Minkin, then Judy Bertelsen, and then Deborah Dashow Ruth, and then last reader will be John Hart. And I'm going to post all your bios on the chat space when we will have the readers come up, and then Dale, take it over.
Hey,
Got people still coming in.
And you're muted.
Sorry, Dale, do you want to start your reading? You can unmute yourself.
okay, I'm all set. And thank you for all being here. I'm going to do a couple of poems from my new-ish book, some coffee house poems, and a couple that aren't in books. This one, this time around, is for Vince Storti. The speakers. The ghosts of all the artists I loved. Some of them sit at tables, all real. Some are invisible, huddled or talking over pastry and caffeine, feeding themselves from a world that exists just outside the door and exists here only if you remember it. I can hear all of them from where I eat. I am all of their accents. Everybody I know out there, I hear in their voices. You may never have known most of them, but I see them walking beside you. The music continues on the coffee house speakers. It's agony. You can hear it that way if you want to. Your memories caught on a fishhook that once they're recorded need to repeat themselves over and over again for your life to have continuity. The ghosts gathered at the tables remain warmed to their various lives, their coffee, their gestures, their enclosed world, the traffic without illusion outside the window. This one is cut up at the phonemic level, and it's about something, and you'll be able to figure out what it's about partway through. Tvo ices on a phone. The tvo ice left and here or ding oft he robocall. I son lit re in to scape. Goa a ad aside. Iti ian li wa I itka. A kite, ba oath, icloads. This one's a little more conventional. The autobiography court. The ambulance that will gather, let me start again. The ambulance that will carry the last part of your death is still several blocks away. You can hear its siren, the police cars too. You can't fool yourself. They're on their way. The police car carries the judge who will judge your autobiography. Bet you didn't know that there's an autobiography court. If you did, you'd want it to be open, just for the last ravings of that guy on the subway last week, yodeling on his cell phone as the whole car tightens to endure noise like light that's intense as a star or an explosion, and everyone hopes that he doesn't melt down the entire car around them. You do have good hearing. You can tell those sirens are for you, even though they seem miles off. And they're more important to you than that guy on his cell phone was. Maybe that's what bugs you. Then you remember a woman you talked to after a movie that you both saw, each sitting alone at a makeshift theater when you were both college students. She was trying to pick you up. You realized that 20 years after it happened. Now she's even further away than that guy on the subway, but she's still part of your autobiography, and the ambulance is coming, and the police car. Without her, without her, without her, they're coming for you, just for you. And one more. Stanza Coffee House, Haight Street, 2017. This moment is only the present moment and is not the present moment only in this coffee house. It's not my usual coffee house. I decided this morning to go here, to write here, because it's on a street that was legendary 50 years ago. People still go here to believe in the legend, dress themselves as if they were part of the legend. I watched them. I was alive then, even though I was not living here and almost never visited. Now I'm visiting. They parade past the window. They're almost all in costume. They're rehearsing for a performance from before they were born, and they probably all get it wrong. Sometimes, some of them even come in here. But when they come into the coffee house, some of them, they're so joyous. The other people in here know them, and everything in their world is real. I was alive 50 years ago, young too, only a few miles from here, and I'm jealous. They're not jealous. Their joy is not original. It's genuine. And for thousands of years, the same happiness has filled almost identical moments from the Stone Age to ages when no one here now will still be alive to experience them. And here comes another one, dancing up to the barista, carrying with her the tradition of all the happiness there ever was. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful, Dale. This is awesome. Your flashbacks 50 years ago, 20 years ago. The sound of the presence, your performance is beautiful. And then the urgency of that time. Wonderful reading. Thank you. And then we have our next reader, Judy Wells. Judy, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you all. I'm going to read from my new book, Night at the Musée d'Orsay, Poems of Paris and Other Great European Cities. This is the title poem, Night at the Musée d'Orsay. If the curators knew I, a moth, was in the Van Gogh room at the Musée d'Orsay in Paris, they'd be shocked. But what do they expect? I love light, and I'm particularly attracted to a painting of stars, globs of light reflected in a river. I've sat on top of these yellow blobs and survived somehow, though I can feel the heat of these stars right through the paint. Light bulbs are cold by comparison. Though I'm not singed by Van Gogh, somehow I'm transformed and waves of ecstasy wander through my wings. I rest on Van Gogh's stars all night, and in the morning I flit to a cottage with a voluptuous garden and settle on a deep blue iris. The tourists think I'm part of the painting. I laugh. I'm just a moth with grand taste. The next poem is called I'd Like to Live in Paris, kind of a fantasy Paris here. I'd like to live in Paris. I'd like to walk along the Seine, view Notre Dame de Paris. I'd like to live in the 5e, walk down the Rue des Écoles, sit at la Place de la Contre-Escarpe and sip chocolate, shoo away the pigeons Hemingway stalked for his stews as a poor man in Paris. I'd like to live in the 6e, walk in the Jardin du Luxembourg, visit Gertrude Stein's place, sit among her visitors, Picasso's great portrait of her on the wall, Alice with her brownies about to serve us all. I'd like to live in the 16e, or Passy as it was called in the 19th century, visit with Balzac in his house where he hid from his creditors, have him serve me a nightcap of his famous coffee, a thick brew made of ground beans, then hear his stories toute la nuit, all night, of Esther and Lucien de Rubempré before I waltzed away to stroll around Montmartre with Salvador Dali at dawn. Why not? Or maybe I would join Apollinaire and Marie Laurencin, wandering over bridges on the Seine, the sun rising slowly on a cold, foggy day, my mind jazzed with Balzac's coffee, till I see Notre Dame de Paris and bow my head. And my final poem will be, takes place in Italy, but you feel like you're in Austria while you're there, because this part of Italy was part of the Habsburg Austrian Empire until the end of World War I. So it's got kind of a bicultural city here that I'm talking about. Procession in Castelruth. This is the German name of the town, and Castelrotto is the Italian name. Procession in Castelruth, Castelrotto for my mother. Funeral in Castelruth, funeral in Castelrotto, amongst a people who still celebrate the old customs of Sud Tyrol. Men in Tyrolean hats with feathers bear the standard, Jesus, farmer, Christ. The other old men fall in pairs. Younger men in black, Tyrolean jackets, vests, and pants, green asparagus branches in their hats, bear the wooden coffin. How heavy is the Christ man inside? His widow is majestic, held up by 2 adult daughters, a tall woman, small face, elegant brown braids twisted round her head. She wears a long black silk dress with full puffy sleeves, brooch at the high neck, a wedding dress in reverse. Black, black, majestic, she follows the coffin, face a mask of grief. Women now in pairs fall in, everyone reciting prayers in German. Is the whole town here? The little boys in their purple and white altar boy outfits stare at us tourists as they enter St. Peter and Paul's. They do not know I too am here as a mourner, though I wear a blue Gore-Tex rain hat, running shoes, khakis, and green vest. I am here to mourn my mother. I am here in black silks. I am here with the widow and her daughters. I am with them in the small cemetery behind the church. I am with them when the bells toll. I am with them when they throw the last handfuls of dirt on the newly dug grave. I'll be there when the red tulips sprout, the pansies begin to grow. I will sprinkle the flowers with water from the little iron pot. I will light candles on the grave for 93 days. Today is my mother's birthday. Her funeral was 6 months ago. I am here to commemorate my mother. I will wrap black silk around my soul. I will wrap black silk around my soul, so she'll know for whom the bell tolls. May 22nd, 2001. Thank you.
Beautiful, Judy. Very nice. Thank you for enlightening us by your lights. So some lines like just a mouse with grand taste, a wedding dress in reverse. It's outstanding, beautiful. Let's welcome our next reader, Peter Nell Carroll. Peter, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. There are many people here, much more than I expected. I have 2 new books out. One is called Talking to Strangers, but I'm going to read from one that I really think you might enjoy more. This Land, These People, the 50 States. In my lifetime, I have managed to visit every state, to actually sleep in each of them, not at the same time. And so before we started this session, I asked some of you what states you would like to hear the poem of. And so by popular demand, I'm going to begin with Alabama. And the poem is titled Aliens. It's what you can't see in Alabama. The kid's soccer ball hidden in a shed. Someone's mama behind a curtain, waiting for sundown to go outside. I hear pickers fled the state, fields red with broken tomatoes. No cook to fry a taco. The white man boarded up Rico's cantina. After the preacher went, leaving the iglesias locked, thieves stole the silver chalice, baffling police. All the usual suspects had vanished. One matinee features a civil rights movie. When it goes dark at the end, no one, white or not, leaves their seat. No one wants to face the light. Aliens meaning not outer space exactly. This next poem is for all of us in California, and I have a prop which appears in the poem. California, and this is titled Backstage. After I bought my first brown broad-rimmed cowboy hat and came upon the 40-ish pot-bellied horse groom brushing the sleek flank of his muscular Clydesdale stallion, an animal that would be paired with another mighty creature to pull the iconic stagecoach at the head of the Hollister parade. I knew, dude, how ridiculous I looked under the brim. Horse trailers and pickups were festooned with stars and stripes. The brass band was warming up to Sousa's thunderous march, and a microphone across the track blared patriotic greetings. The groom barely glanced, an amused look as he sized me up, like someone who had parachuted from Mars onto his dry, dusty field, and he continued to brush the horse's luscious rump. How many hands? I asked, which brought a pause to his labor. He asked where I was from. San Francisco, I replied, confirming his suspicion. Slowly, without malice, he said, "Welcome to America." That was at the Hollister Rodeo. Now this one is Delaware, the home of Joe Biden, and it's called Imaginary Characters. The richest persons never go on diets, never binge. They are pure nobodies. Imaginary characters like Donald Duck's Uncle Scrooge, the Disney cheapskate who quacks with joy when swimming in pools of dimes and dollar bills. Hard to picture a make-believe citizen, ghost-like, extending invisible hands, red tooth and claw, and despite lack of vocal cords or cranium, expressing opinions in the form of cold cash and credit. Tiny Delaware is that state of mind, more sympathetic to corporate fantasies, considers its boards as families, passing a legacy, culture, assets, health, and wealth through preferred stocks and bonds. Speak no evil of their immense wealth. They mean well, and pay no attention to profits drawn from spills and poisons that will live on earth forever. Do not envy these ethereal persons, clever as angels, and who like them shall never die. Remember, as the great McGuffey put it, the rich have many troubles we know nothing of. So I don't know if that implicates anybody out here. Someone said Illinois before, so let me do this. I really love this poem. This is called The Confluence. It's where the Ohio River and the Mississippi River come together. And it's an amazing place to stand at that point if you ever get down in southern Illinois. Here beats America's primal pulse. Inked by underwater spirits, the brown current pumps. Walls shift the spinning river, writhe in circles that fight loose, run deeper into watery labyrinth. Here is America's torn body, antique as the scarred continent. Here, wild tectonic plates broke the earth, shuddered plains. A man on horseback felt his unbalanced animal petrify in the track, dropped the river upside down, flowed backward, startled the land. Here earthquakes forebode the next coming, how history may end. Here lies the nation's shame, blend of blue northern currents, mud-brown chattel, witches swim below the murky surface. No operatic chorus of Old Man River can halt the retribution. nor will Huck and Jim, tricked by night, fog, fear, escape time. They missed the confluence. Here Mark Twain's pen stopped cold. Mister, is that town Carroll? If you want to know, go and find out. If you stay here bothering me for about a half-minute longer, you'll see something you won't want. Here's the tragedy. This isn't about literature, yesterday's pain, vague, mysterious wounding of a nation. Here the future reads as the human palm. Here the forest breathes bad air, water's undrinkable. Here the note falls dew. And I will do one more from Minnesota, Minneapolis, in fact, where I lived for 5 winters. And maybe you could get a sense of what that means, 5 winters in Minnesota. Bitter winter in the city of lakes. A good car, a strong hooded coat separate life and death. Skid into a snowdrift. The cops won't find you frozen stiff until morning. January, February, March, even April, before the noose loosens, boots vanish, weight of wool lifts, bare arms appear. By May, friends may pause to chat on leafy streets. In the year of COVID-19, cabin fever exceeds claustrophobia. Even lawful citizens crave escape. Masks hard to come by. Kids hang at corners, flirting. The aroma of grass drifts by. At 8 p.m., a black man stops for smokes, passes a fake bill. Cops do what they do. Cuff him, put a knee on his neck, and wait. It's hard to watch, hard to breathe, hard to believe it never ends. Thank you all. It's been fun here.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, so without further ado, let's welcome our next reader, Angie Minkin. Angie, take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here, and I want to thank everyone for being here, and thank you, Anne, for pulling this together. It's just wonderful. And thank you, Dale and Judy and Peter, for those really powerful poems of time and place. Just wonderful. I am going to be reading a few poems from my new chapbook, Balm for the Living, which just came out, and those of my dear friends and family who are here should receive them next week, I've been told. The first poem in the book is called Feathers Floating, and it's an ode of sorts to the powers of chicken soup, or as my mother might say, Jewish penicillin. Feathers floating, like my mother and grandmother, plucky daughters, poor chicken farmers, I stand at the sink, rinsing the cold, naked bird. Grandmother extracted plumes one by one. Mother singed tiny, errant pin feathers, generations of feathers floating free. My hands echo their deft motions, slicing carrots and garlic, chopping celery. I brown onions, skim off impurities. In the dented soup pot, I conjure spells to break high fevers, soothe despair, transform the pale neck, liver, marrow, heart, and bones. I can't resurrect the dead, but with each golden drop, I seek balm for the living. Thank you. And my next poem is called Nettle of Dreams, and it was actually first published in the 2021 Marin Poetry Center anthology as Transformation. Nettles of dreams. Old women stand at sinks, humming, shoulders hitched back. Water thrums down, lonely floats up. Sometimes the women sag under nettles of dreams. Old women stare out kitchen windows, eat lemons, tango with memories, eyes fog narrowed, squaring shoulders as they stand at sinks, humming. A kestrel lands in the hawthorn tree. Good luck or bad? Time, soundless, spirals as the old women sag under nettled dreams. And consider the dark nearing. The dying sun rocks limbed. Knives scrape potato parings, and old women square up to the future, singing of nothing, or perhaps lost children, folded in black boxes, or perhaps tired ghosts. These old women humming private melodies. Finches flash, winds hush, a quiet descends on the kitchen. The women shuffle as they wipe counters, tuck in long shadows. These old women humming, shoulders squared. Thank you. And my next poem is an erasure poem. It's called Jump into Joy, and it was taken from an article in the San Francisco Chronicle that was written about Alonzo King, who is an amazing choreographer. Jump into Joy. You are divine artists, keeping the mystery. Everyone is some kind of artist, illuminating human beings, luminescent souls playing roles, moving higher on the precipice. Hell abounds, storm brews, churning, transformation. All that is heavy and dark gotta go. We are that transition. Jump into joy now. The later game doesn't work. So, and I wanted to read a really new poem. I'm just going to see how it lands with all of you. My mother-in-law and her painted nails. For Bev, love was a stew of cigarette smoke and fire red lacquer. Her morning ritual at the green and white kitchen table that matched the curtains perfectly. Virginia Slims, coffee, sweet and low. Her girlfriends who needed advice dropped by to scatter words at her feet, bouquets of homage after the kids left. Later, lunch at Sam and High's, her local deli, where she held court with her raucous laugh. Salads, half a bagel, more coffee. You can't be too thin, she said, pinching my arm whenever I visited, a mute acolyte trying to win her acclaim. Her son adored her, but we moved away. It's the snow, he said, and that wind chill. Not her words that often left scars, her bossy ways that wouldn't be denied. Yet she adopted him as a teen, sheltered him, soothed his hurt, helped him navigate the hard curves that life threw his way. Beneath all her bluster, we knew her truth. We saw past the red nails and smoke, the updos and glamour, the beautiful home she made for lost kids, her old father who read the newspaper upside down. How hard she worked at love, how hard she worked to stay alive until her son arrived to say goodbye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Beautiful, Angie. There's so many moments that it took my breath away, especially, well, don't we all want to resurrect the dead? You know, I recently lost one of my best friends, my mentor, and yeah, his passing was it's a big loss for me and everybody around him. So I really appreciate your poem. That was awesome. Okay, thank you, Angie. And moving onward, let's welcome Judy Bertelsen. Judy, take it away.
Thank you, Anne, and all. This first poem comes from my childhood on a family farm in the San Joaquin Valley. And by the way, back then, tires had inner tubes. This is called Tenderfoot. If you step on a puncture vine barefoot, the itch can drive you crazy. A thorn will catch in a tire's edge, slowly work its way in. Then the thing blows when you're alone in the middle of nowhere. On the farm, 5 miles out of Sanger, we'd toughen our feet for summer, walk barefoot in the hot dirt, get our souls good and calloused. When the stickers were still partly soft, my brother and Vedros and I would walk across a vine-matted field, a test. Each step required care. I'd look down, concentrating, then up to find I'd committed to crossing. Turning back now as scary as moving on. Okay, the second one. Larry Levis was a poet who also was from a farm in the San Joaquin Valley. And I really love his poems. I didn't know him, but I feel as if he's kind of my brother. And this poem is an imagined email exchange between us. And I'll use finger quotes when quoting from him directly, as the poem does occasionally. And it's entitled Larry Levis Emails from Heaven. Thanks for your inquiry. Yes, I remember puncture vine. Back then, tires had inner tubes and serious damage could be done. It's true, I focused more on plants that seemed victims, the ones that didn't do anything assaultive or mean, but just seemed in the way, not totally in line with our wants. For example, the Johnson grass we sprayed with malathion and diesel fuel, which felt narrow-minded and even unneighborly, and the ditch bank weeds that, quietly dignified, resisted being pulled. I don't know where the phrase swamp fruit came from. We just grew up with it, a term of art. I like how it names conditions of both fruit and laborers, hot, sweaty effort, lifting heavy lug boxes and swinging them up onto a flatbed truck, brute force work that bruised both fruit and crew. It's true, I didn't write much about the animals being killed. Frankly, it bothered me too, but writing about it would have been an additional violation of them and use of their suffering in a way that would have felt off the point and certainly wouldn't have done those particular animals any good. I did write about some particular horses and also the zoo. The way the hyenas are sold without ever knowing it. And later, overhead, the right stars in the right places. And the cedar waxwings. Well, you know how much I admire and value cedar waxwings and the door that mescaline opened. It was complicated to talk about. I went at it sideways. but with words precise as possible. For example, the two horses called Misfoot and Querido Flaco, considering their lives, their suffering, their conditions. About the cocaine, I didn't intend to overdose and I didn't want to die. It's true, I also didn't want to go to the gym or count calories or practice mindful control. But I stand by my words in answer to who desires this moment, which comprehends nothing more than loss and fragility and the fleeing of flesh? Me, I do. It's mine. LL. This poem is called Roshi, which is a term used by many Buddhists for a revered teacher. It's about my sweet former cat, Simon. And there's a French line in it because a friend who's here actually today, who was studying French, said it about Simon. The sentence means a handsome cat and charming also. And I won't pronounce the French as well as she could, but anyway. Okay, here goes the poem. Once it became clear, I could see it had been coming far longer than I realized. His habit of propping himself up with his forepaws fit with the mass seen on X-ray days earlier. And the cough I thought might have been a hairball now seemed due to pressure on his windpipe. Although all my friends were shocked and said how fine he looked, his usual dignified presence, un chercha et charmant aussi. But then he simply stopped eating. Quietly, calmly, no complaint, sat still, perhaps peaceful, in my lap when the hospice vet who came to visit us showed more dour drama than seemed appropriate, frankly, out of keeping with Simon's moment-to-moment matter-of-factness. Okay, this final poem is called How to Work a Puzzle. You can get started with an edge, even if you don't know which end is up. Group by definition and color. Blurry browns and greens here, whites with sharp gray edges to the left, light blues, mauves over there. Watch for rare bits of red, a peculiar curve, odd group of knobs, points, hollows. Suddenly a piece, sometimes two or even three or four you've stared at for a long time, absent-mindedly half seen, falls into place almost on its own. The rest look unrelated, but you know from experience more will come together for you or someone else. Sometimes it helps to stand and see the whole sweep. Sometimes your fingers take a piece and place it without checking, as if behind the eyes grasps a whole you couldn't think about, which just seems bestowed. It helps to stop trying. Give it a rest. There's a space I can't figure out. I really think a piece must be lost, but in the end, nothing is missing. Thank you.
Beautiful, Judy. Thank you. Your poetry is so wonderful, so in touch with the colloquial language. I love it. Your cats, especially your cat, sorry. And then I'm looking at the back of your hanging cat. It's just awesome. Okay, great. We are welcoming our next reader, Deborah, Dashow, Ruth. Take it away.
Hello. I want to dedicate this reading
Yes.
to my late husband, Leo Ruth, and also to his two brothers, Al and Leland Ruth, who honor me by their presence here today. First poem is titled A Taste for It. No one ever taught me to eat a poem slowly, to take small bites and make it last. So I just crammed the whole damn thing in my mouth, too impatient to let the flavors linger or allow my taste buds to savor the tang. I gulp lines, choke on enjambment, and bite down so hard on imagery that similes get stuck between my teeth. Sometimes I even swallow a poem without chewing it and wonder why my tongue goes numb. Telling on myself. Younger friends look blankly at me if I mention Pentagon Papers, Mort Saul, or Nichols and May, Hindenburg, Enola Gay, just as my face puzzles up whenever they mention the Glass Animals, Foo Fighters, Sergeant Splendor, Smashing Pumpkins. I still say bummer and my bad. Can't keep up with the new phrases for expressing value judgments, though awesome, I easily understand, often use it myself, in fact. Unintentionally overhearing, unintentionally overhearing conversations from 2030s. I bite my tongue so I won't barge in and correct them when they claim the last Beatles concert was in LA. I do tend to go on and on when asked about some past event, delving down into details my listener couldn't care less about. In this, I remind myself of how my mother would go on and on, unaware that what she saw as rapt attention on her listener's face was nothing more than patient politeness. But when I get caught up in a story from before my listeners were born, I make the most sincere presumption that they're fascinated by my telling because they have so little material from their short lives to talk about and are grateful to me for the wisdom I so generously impart. Excuse me, let me have a a gremlin gets in my throat. This next one is called Dress for Less. I don't know if you know that Dress for Less is a clothing store chain, and there's one near where I live. Dress for Less. I'd shopped there many times before, but I always had to rush around to find whatever item I needed. Tan belt, red sweater, navy sweatpants, with no leisure time for browsing. And then I had to hurry home because I knew he'd be waiting for me and would worry if I was gone too long. Today, I went in just to browse, wandered through the entire store, fingered items that caught my glance, carried an armload of possibilities into the fitting room to try. In no hurry to get home, since the only one there would be the cat, curled up, napping, waiting for me. No statute of limitations on loss. We flew our kite, watched the string stretch beyond the rim of the earth, then pass out of view, but not once did it ever really vanish from our sight. I always kept my share of the kite string pressed between my fingers and palm. It rooted itself into my skin, growing deep along my lifeline. Grief is a spell, not cast by a wand, but out of a gaping cavern below. It toppled me sideways, tossed me down. Time was useless for restoring my balance. But the kite is still there, string stretched out beyond the rim of the earth, still growing deeper into my lifeline, so much longer than his. Bird in the Tree has an epigraph by the poet Muriel Rukeyser, who said, "Breathe in experience, breathe out poetry." A blur of white and gray feathers flashes as he leaps into the air from a tall pine top, then back to his hidden branch and sings in finely feathered fluidity his serenading song with few repeats. He's showing off to attract a mate, his voice both raucous and melodic. To hear the trills of this bird's rich vocabulary thrills my soul. If I were a female of that species, I'd be persuaded by his song, would go along and join him for some sweet bird bonding, feathers to feathers. He must have traveled widely to have picked up so many disparate words, a true Shakespeare of mockingbirds. And for my traditional final poem, I don't know if any of you have heard this at readings over past years, but this is called The Book of Love, and it also has an epigraph, author unknown. The epigraph is rule for writing. Avoid cliches like the plague. The Book of Love. To make a long story short, he was tall, dark, and handsome. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was love at first sight. I went weak at the knees, fell head over heels. He swept me off my feet. At last, I'd found the man of my dreams. With my heart in my mouth and my pulse racing, I walked down the aisle. He said he'd love me forever and a day. What more could a girl ask for? But it takes two to tango, and I was riding for a fall. He played me fast and loose, made me holler uncle, took my last nickel, split for the coast, dropped out of sight. I was a basket case. To drown my sorrows, I hit the sauce. Then I pulled myself up by my bootstraps, drew a line in the sand, got my ducks in a row, put on a happy face, and batted my eyelashes at a total stranger. He was putty in my hands, mine for the taking. So what if I led him up the garden path? He was tickled pink, and we painted the town red. But then, out of the blue, I just said no, called it quits, picked up my marbles, and never looked back. It was a dark and stormy night. I got soaked to the skin, but I couldn't care less. When my head hit the pillow, I was out like a light, slept like a log dead to the world. At the crack of dawn, I was up and running, shoulder to the wheel, nose to the grindstone, eyes on the prize. Yes, I wrote the Book of Love. And the rest, as they say, is history. Now I've got all the time in the world. The playing field's been leveled. It's a whole new ball game. I can see for miles. The future lies ahead, and the best is yet to come. What more can I say? Thank you.
This is hilarious. Great reading, Deborah. You have such a gift for the reading, performance reading. It's just gorgeous. Your poetry is very fun. And it's like taking us to a dramedy or some sort of thank you for the reading. And I love that part when you said the breathing experience breathes out the poetry. Isn't that what we feel like when someone encounters the end of the life, you know, exit, when you have to breathe in lastly and then breathe out? I've been thinking lately, just because of this friend, that a friend's passing. But anyway, thank you for your reading. It's wonderful. And thank you. And let's bring our last reader, John Hart. John, take it over.
I will do. Thank you so much. And thank you all for being such an appreciative audience. My title to plug in this moment is not a book, but a magazine called Blue Unicorn, an all poetry journal that's existed since 1977 and recently moved from Kensington to San Rafael. And I edit. And Blue Unicorn, which is online, welcomes both submitters and, needless to say, subscribers. I wasn't going to read a cat poem. Now I am. We had a couple. Couldn't resist. This is called simply Cat. The cat, its claws appear like salt, its fond and barren eye. Desiring to be fed, or to converse, or to be chummy on a chosen knee, or to have you make the magic opening. The little things it wants all day. What else would dare presume so much as creature kept, and having no disease, and every wish a right, and every notion true? Its loved but laggard servitor are you. I recently attended the libraries and the Marin Poetry Center's reading on poetry and science. And ever since then, I've been hankering to read this poem called Science Class, which I suppose is something of a poem against religion. Ask the plainest question that you know. Consult the date and nation of the stars. Inquire what the first commotion was. Get back an answer stammering with blue that mind refuses, shutting like a shell. Flapping our random hands, how shall we teach this color such that none could reach its brilliant latch? In the beginning was the word, we say, but it is not a word that we can say. We riddle it with gestures or retreat to calculations no one can repeat that twist the cortex but appear to show an unimaginable primal blow of no one upon nothing fructified. We do not say it very well and live. But after that, who can forgive the dull accounts that the religions give, the shallow heavens and the apple ban, the gods perfecting all that's worst in man? I will confess I almost hate those who pretend to know what name is on the light. They mock their God by knowing what he meant. The only true faith is astonishment. And I guess I will close out probably with a climbing poem. I have been, and to some extent still am, a rock climber and mountaineer, and I find that those experiences haunt me in ways I can't let go of and keep intruding into my poems. This one is called The Belayer. In climbing, there are generally two of you, and there is one person on what they call the sharp end of the rope going up the rock or whatever. But the second person is at the other end of the rope down below and securing the rope in such a way as to protect the life of the leader. And I've always found that relationship quite intense and moving. It's called The Belayer. I start my strange and jagged walk upon the limits of the rock, spread-eagled, hesitant, and slow, athwart the shining stone I go. This excellence to which I bend my pale and dyslectic hand. Below my feet the spaces turn, the 70 black candles burn. But from my harness swings a strand in keeping of a human friend. Small motions link us yards away. You know my fear by my delay. You know the tremor and the talk of a soft-bodied creature on the rock. For nothing can be hidden here. The belayer holds you as you are. I would not overstate the case. All live by one another's grace. We're not more bound together here than a driver, say, and a passenger. Yet sometimes going on belay, I blink a comic tear away. It seems no other link I've known is so explicit and so sane. A discipline attends our words. This dance is done with real swords. Friend, my life a colored strand lies in the stricture of your hand, by whose enablement I own my place upon the solemn stone, the clean-limbed, ancient, powerful, and tall, as beautiful as horses, and more still. I thank you.
Beautiful, John. Very beautiful. Thank you. This is awesome reading. And with this, we just want to conclude today's session. We have lots of participants and readers, and then this heartwarming, readings is just like on a June gloom day, especially after one of my friends passing. This is really, really great gathering. Thank you for all the readers for your wonderful reading and for your wonderful poems. I appreciate you, and then we are very happy to continue with our summer series, the traveling show. Next episode coming up. Okay, check out MPC MarinPoetryCenter.org website for the future events. And then thank you for joining today, and thank you for tuning in. This is awesome to have you all. I feel so heartwarmed, and I feel so inspirational with all of you. And John, I probably will send something to the Blue Unicorn, okay?
Excellent.
And then great to have everybody here. And then thank you. Keep it on, keep writing, and we'll see you very soon. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Take great
you, Ann.
care.
Everyone.
Thank you, John. Thank you all.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye, Lynn.
Bye.